I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to share this information about working with nature consciously with you. And Mary, thanks for coming and bringing Ray. I want to thank Ken Kaplan for a couple of things. It always works out well when Ken asks me to do something. Ken is the reason that I discovered Reiki. Do you remember that day we went to Tyler Park with some crystals to cleanse in the stream?
Yeah, right.
I had a fluorite sphere, and he took this little fluorite sphere. He said, "Watch this." And he invoked the first Reiki symbol, and it started to just glow. And I'm like, "You got to tell me more about this." So that's when he helped me connect with his Reiki teacher. And then 10 years later, I decided it was time for my master level, and I came in 2005 and had that with Hannah-Laura. So thank you, Ken. And thank you for asking me to do this talk, because I found this material in the mid-90s, but while I found it and I integrated some of it into my world, I found that researching to do this talk, there was a lot more that I had not picked up and put into action. So when I put the things into action last week, I'll tell you about it toward the end of the talk. It's really wonderful, and you'll be able to do it too. Now I have to put my bifocals on. Okay. So a few things have improved my life as much as the processes from Perelandra have come. I hope I share something today that helps you have a big expansion too, because nature is everywhere. Nature permeates the entire universe. So a little background about me. I grew up in the South in a small town, and I grew up in the Catholic Church. So I grew up as a child reciting something called the Nicene Creed. We believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, of all that is, seen and unseen. Well, that last line always spoke to me because I felt such a big connection to the unseen world. And so never had a doubt in my mind that we were continually surrounded by unseen beings who were here to help and enjoy with us. Like St. Anthony, when you lose something, you call on St. Anthony, right? And I knew that there were also angels and fairies, and I spent a lot of time out in the woods, and there were a lot of beings out in the woods that I could feel that I didn't have names for, but they all felt really nice. So it was knowing that that was there that really helped me feel grounded in, even though it's airy-fairy, that's what helped me feel grounded. Nature was my rock. Later in life, when I had gotten into the corporate world and was drinking an insane amount of coffee to just keep up, I found the quote from Lao Tzu that says, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything gets done." And that woke me up, and I thought, what am I doing? And I remembered how I felt back in the woods, and remembered how I felt connected and felt myself and was full of creativity and joy. So in 1991, I left the corporate rat race and became a massage therapist. And then I started working with the unseen world of helpers in every massage that I did. When I graduated, a friend gave me Hands of Light from Barbara Ann Brennan. And that expanded my idea of what was around me and gave me some names for things that I had been experiencing. So when I took the third level of Reiki with Hannah-Laura, my connection to nature shows up. I'm sure you remember the old Circle of Miracles at Hannah-Laura's house, which was this beautiful glassed-in room on three sides in the deep woods. And I was the only person in my master class. And when it came time at the end of the teachings to do my initiation, she set up the big copper pyramid and put a chair in the center of it. And there'd been a storm brewing. It was November, and there'd been this storm brewing all day. And then just as she put her hands on my head, there was this loud crack of thunder, and the heavens opened. And it was all around us, and the energy just poured through. It was just amazing. Nature and I have a good connection. In 1996, a friend showed me the essences from Perelandra, which is a nature research center in Jeffersonville, Virginia. Has anyone here heard of Findhorn?
Been there.
Okay. Well, in 1976, Michelle Smallwright, the founder of Perelandra, with her husband Clarence gave her 2 books about Findhorn. And she said, "Oh, so let's do this." So they have 22 acres. And she started connecting with the nature spirits and the devas and consciousness that called itself nature. And so she developed tools and practices to help us connect with nature on a conscious level. And she has been working with the flower, creating the flower essences and energy processes ever since then. So today we're going to talk about those a bit. It turns out that nature has some definitions that are a little bit different from what we think. So I'd like to just start by reading a few short definitions so we get on the same page as nature. The first one is what a garden is. From nature's perspective, a garden is any environment that is inhabited by humans, given its purpose and direction by humans, and maintained with the help of humans. Can you think of any space of yours that qualifies for that? How about the space we're standing in? You know, everything. It doesn't have to have soil to be a garden. When humans dominate all aspects of and elements of the garden, we consider it human dominant. We consider it to be nature friendly when humans understand and function within the laws of nature and engage nature as a full partner in the design and operation of that environment, resulting in creating a balance of all it comprises and the larger whole, a balance of evolution and involution. A garden need not include a plot of soil to be considered a garden. A garden is any place where humans define, initiate, and interact with form to create a specialized environment. So that's home, office, the bus stop, a learning environment, your stock portfolio, a course of studies, purchase of a home, all of that. Now let's define nature according to nature. This is shorter too. Nature is the conscious reality that supplies order, organization, and life vitality for the involutionary shift, the moving of soul-oriented consciousness into any dimension or level of form. It comprises all form on all levels and in all dimensions. Its forms order, organization, and life vitality. It is the involutionary dynamic, the coming into form dynamic. So a lot of us have great ideas, but we can never seem to get them into form. Well, nature can help us do that. So that's the involutionary. We are the evolutionary aspect. We're the free will aspect who has desires. So form is, nature considers reality to be in the form state when there is organization, order, and life vitality combined with a state of consciousness. We're the state of consciousness. Then there are devas and nature spirits. Has anybody heard of devas before? Yeah, sure. Okay, these are two different expressions and functions within the consciousness of nature that interface with us humans and the human soul while it's in form. They fuse with consciousness to create order, organization, and life vitality. The deva is the architect, and the nature spirits are like the blue-collar workers who get everything done. And in one of the readings in the two workbooks that Michelle has created, the devas say, we are motion. We are always in motion, and we will blend with you and move you if you invite us. So have you ever found yourself doing something, seeing your hands do something? Just like when you're doing Reiki and the idea arrives rather than you creating it, the idea to move to a different space, and you follow that. Well, the devas can help us with everything that way. So it's very, very fun and very interesting. Consciousness. A human form is, by definition, a soul fused with nature through the electrical system. Consciousness is the working state of the soul and is not form. So consciousness exists outside of form and can be merged with nature for form. Nature provides form, not consciousness. Now, let's talk about grounding as my last definition. Grounding is a full body soul fusion. So when we ground completely through our system, it's like we have 100% energy, full flow, blowing in every cell and vibration that we are. It's glorious. Ever have that? Yeah, it's wonderful. When the musician is totally into it, doing that, that's full body fusion. When the ice skater hits that quadruple leap, that's fusion. And there are all kinds of forces helping with that. So creation begins with the evolutionary dynamic, which is us when we have a desire. Any consciousness fused with form, anything from a one-celled amoeba in the ocean to a human being. All of that is the evolutionary dynamic. And so in the grand scheme of things, that's our part. Now, we're in charge of asking for more and how we want it to be. So that's our job. It's our job to know what we want and what we don't want. And sometimes you really know what you want when you run up against what you don't want, right? Right. But sometimes you also birth things just from divine inspiration, right? So you start a painting and let the inspiration flow, and this thing comes out that you had no idea of. Where you do a group painting where you pass it around and everybody does a little something, and then all of a sudden there's something there, So nature responds with the involutionary dynamic and makes things happen. And when we work with nature to consciously plan things, things go so much more smoothly and things come about just amazing and miraculous. Little miracles show up all along the way. So Michelle started studying with nature about how to balance the soil. And nature gave lots of insights and created some essences. Flower essences work at that level of fusion between form and soul. So if we have a blockage in there and we take the appropriate essence, then that essence opens up that little window and our energy can full flow through it. And then we have that in our toolkit from then on. So the workbooks give chapters and processes and charts and all kinds of information about how to create a garden, from meeting with the deva to select what seeds, all the way through putting the garden to bed for the winter. And I'm not going to talk about the garden with the soils in it as much as I am talking about the soilless gardens. So I'm just going to let you know, you're into that. You can look it up in the Perelandra Garden workbooks. There are 2 of them. And they're full of amazing information. So I highly recommend that.
By Michelle, what's her last name?
Small right. Yeah, it's Perelandra, Perelandra-LTD.com. And they're in Jeffersonville, Virginia. So one more thing about the soiled garden, though. Over the number of years, she founded it 50 years ago. And 30 years ago, I went down when they had an open house and actually walked in the Perelandra Garden. The Perelandra Garden has evolved into an 18 concentric circle, beautiful garden with a huge crystal in the middle of it. And it actually holds perfect balance. It is a site of perfect balance on the planet. And so the overlighting deva of Perelandra has instructed Michelle how to make an essence that embodies that perfect balance, stability, and strength. And I have it with me today. So if you're here in person, you can sample some today if you want to feel that essence, because you put it in your mouth and everything opens up and grounds. It's a glorious feeling. So
Who would want that?
Who wouldn't want that? Exactly. So the essences that they created create a balanced body-soul fusion. Just like I said, it opens that little window that's clogged, and then our energy can flow through. So one thing they recommended when I read the book was that you take both the garden essences and the ones made from their roses, and you do them every morning for a year. So I did that. And it caused a really beautiful deepening and shifting and grounding of my soul into my body when I did that for a year. So I highly recommend doing that if you want to explore with that. So some of the processes that are available to help us create a deep, ongoing relationship with nature from Perelandra include ways to communicate directly with the devas and the nature spirits, ways to create your own flower essences. You don't have to buy them, you can create your own. And energy clearing for the home or for your office. Michelle also was given a battle energy clearing process. And she went to Gettysburg and did it over and over and over again for the battle energy that is there. And you can do it remotely or you can do it in person. I've done it with a lot of, like a house blessing that I did, created a beautiful harmonious home with the person's energetics with the devas, because I knew how to do this cleansing process. And then the thing I want to talk about a little more after this is the way to create a nature spirit sanctuary within your own home. Because that's what I did this last week after reviewing the material again, and I'll tell you about the results. We started sleeping deeper. We started digesting better. Things flowed better, and the dog became more playful. So it's all wonderfully harmonious, and piles of papers that had been impossible to move got cleared out.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Yeah, right there.
Here.
Yes, well, you need to talk to the devas, because what I do is, you create a nature space, nature sanctuary from them. There's a way to create it, and there's a way to dismantle it when you move, because the next person coming in might not know or be into that same thing. And if you email me, I'll send you the process of both creating and letting it go. So to create it, what you do is you choose a space in your home where traffic is not going to go through. For me, I chose the corner of a counter, and you rope it off visibly. So I took a string of gemstone beads, and I roped it off, and I put some lovely large crystals in the corner. And then I connected with the overlighting deva of my apartment, because I'm in a second floor apartment right now. I don't have a garden to work with. And I connected with the nature spirits, and I asked them if this was acceptable, and I asked them to help me develop a deeper, more personal relationship with nature. They said, yes, it was acceptable. And so I stepped away, and it was like the whole thing glowed. And then every time I walk by it, I get a wonderful feeling. And you can connect with the nature spirits just by looking into the nature sanctuary. Once we've created it, you don't have to go through a whole lot of formal things. And you can ask them to help you with things, help me make this vacuuming easier for me to do, or help me with whatever mundane thing, anything you're trying to accomplish, you can help with. Studying, So the way that Michelle Smallwright teaches us to connect with the devas and nature spirits is through using kinesiology. Has anyone here used kinesiology before? Someone had you put your arm out to the side and they muscle tested you.
I like this.
Right. Well, this is the way that she teaches. You take your ring finger and your thumb and you put them together, because we are electrical vibrational beings, and things will strengthen our vibration or things will detract from our vibration. And you take these two fingers and you put them up inside the circle there. And with equal pressure, you're going to check for a yes, no answer. So whatever you ask the devas, you have to dilute down to a yes or a no. So just in your mind, say, my name is, and say your name, and then try to push those fingers apart. Okay, they probably held together. Now in your mind, say, my name is dot, dot. Okay? And then your fingers come apart, right? Might come apart a little bit or might come apart a lot. And the more you do it, the more facile you get with it. It becomes easier and more reliable. Yes, you have to trust it. You have to understand if this is a physical thing, you're an electrical being, and so you can ask a yes/no question. So anything you want to ask your body, because you have an overlighting deva of your body, and nature spirit work with the body, because that's the form, you can ask, is this food healthy for me? As long as it's a yes/no question, you can get it down to an answer you can get by checking with your electrical system. And then you can communicate with the devas that way too. So I would encourage you to create a nature sanctuary in your home. It can be in the center of your dining room table if you want. It can be anywhere that you're not going to have anybody else go through. Now, what happens when you do that is that you create a pocket of light and coordination with nature that then joins with all the other pockets where nature is still dominant. There's a rewilding trend going on. Has anybody heard of the rewilding? David Attenborough did a big special on how to save the planet. And he said, at the end of it, we have to give it back to nature. Nature is going to heal the planet. We have to rewild And a lot of the British royalty, the dukes and things, have started giving half of their estate back to nature. And it's creating a lot. There's a man who took a peninsula in New Zealand, and the government there was, they wanted to raise cattle and sheep. So they had people just burn off everything on the land and plant grass and then graze the animals. Well, this man said, this isn't right. And one of the big weeds that they had is a plant called gorse, which likes to be about 10 feet tall, and it's thick and it's thorny. If you ever saw Maleficent, that big wall of thorns she put up, that's gorse. But gorse only lives 10 years. And while gorse is living, it's causing shade and it's fixing nitrogen into the soil. And so all these birds fly in there and drop seeds, and trees start to grow up, and they grow up. And by 10 years, when the gorse is ready to die off, they create shade for the gorse, which then can't grow because it needs full sun, and it dies off and puts all that nitrogen and all that back in the earth, and you've got thick woods. So nature knows what she's doing. And he saved a whole peninsula in New Zealand this way by refusing to cut down the gorse and letting nature do what nature does best. So anything that you co-create with nature is not only created so that it's good, God bless you, it's good for you, it's also created so it's also good for the balance of the whole. That's one of the biggest benefits of working consciously with nature. And this is the way we as individuals can help with the earth. Now, the nature essence from Perelandra, the essence of Perelandra, they've started a movement where on the first day of the month, you do an energy process with that essence and give it to the earth for stability and balance. So there's a growing movement on the first of the month to rhythmically introduce this essence vibration into the air and soil of the earth. And so we can help with climate change as an individual. So let's see. There's a lot more I'd like to share from Perelandra. And if you would like me to do a workshop here or at our new facility, Shared Wellness, I'll be glad to put on a workshop.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Any questions?